Robin.
Yes, Batman?
Where have you been? You're late.
I'm sorry, Batman. I was at Chipotle getting myself a burrito.
What?
And then it appeared to me like a vision. I forgot the Tabasco sauce, and I had to double back, Batman. I had to go.
Are you kidding me? We're interviewing Jonah Berger, the New York Times bestselling author.
Who?
We're interviewing Jonah Berger,
Oh,
the Wharton Business College professor.
okay, now I...
We're interviewing someone who's kind of a big deal.
Well...
And you mean to tell me that you went back for extra sauce?
You don't have to yell at me. You're just sizzling. You're sizzling, Batman. Calm her
You
down.
must be on time.
Calm her down.
We're interviewing
You're a yellow.
Jonah Berger,
You're
the
yellow.
best-selling author of the new hit book, The Catalyst, How to Change Anyone's Mind.
Batman, I just have a quick question. Would you have gone back?
No, that's why I was upset. Robin, I need you to understand what I'm saying.
I understand. You're saying that if I go to Chipotle again and I have to go back to get extra sauce, I should call you and just tell you that I'm running a little bit late.
No, you son of a...
Batman, when you cursing me, it doesn't make me want to change my mind. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent to change your mind when being yelled at by a yeller. Batman, you should vote for Bernie Sanders. Feel the burn, 2020.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go!
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll
Yes, and yes, Z, it is ecstasy when you are next to me and you are back from injury. How are you, my friend?
I'm alive and kicking, in fact.
What is wrong? What's happening?
Oh, gosh.
Tell us something. Tell us a little something.
I got a little pinched nerve, and so kind of. And then I just did a move, so that kind of aggravated a little bit. So I've been kind of my little arm, my little wing. What's weird is when you have a pinched nerve in your neck, your arm isn't in pain, and yet you have all these sensations in your arm: the stinging, the burning, the numbness.
I want to tell you what I've been doing to get ready for the show today.
What have you been doing?
Well, there's the phrase "no pain, no gain."
Well, yeah.
So because you're in a lot of pain,
yes,
we're going to have a lot of gain.
I like that.
Today's guest is like a pinch of awesome. You have a pinched nerve. He's a pinch of awesome.
I like
Jonah
that.
Berger, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. I love being called a pinch of awesome. I'll take it.
A pinch of awesome. This guy is a Wharton business school professor. We've had him on the show before. Jonah, your book, Contagious, how long ago did you write that book?
Oh, wow. 7 years ago now. Came out. 7 years, 2013.
7 years ago. Okay. Now, tell us, how long have you been a professor over there at Wharton?
This is my 13th year at Wharton. So I've been there since 2007.
So what was your path like that led to landing this dream job? Because Wharton is one of the most prestigious schools on the planet. What was kind of your path to that job?
I'll tell you a fun story, which is when I applied to Wharton as an undergrad, I didn't get in. So if any of your listeners are sitting there going, I didn't get into Wharton, you are the same as me. We did not get into Wharton together.
Oh, man.
I did a PhD in marketing at the Stanford Graduate School of Business.
Cool.
And that's where I studied sort of word of mouth, social influence, change, why things catch on, and then was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get a job at the Wharton School.
Hey, Jonah, now that you're on staff, did you ever figure out who it was? There had to be somebody that said, nah, this kid can't cut it. Did you ever figure that out? Just out of curiosity, did you ever figure out, that was probably Dr. Johnson said that, or somebody did?
Yeah.
Did you ever figure out why they didn't let you in?
It was that person.
Why didn't you get admitted? Did you ever figure that out?
Getting into college is a hard thing.
It is.
Many great students, so it's hard to choose among them all.
Your parents didn't have enough money to. No, I'm teasing. That's a whole other story. That's a whole other show.
Now, John, I want to ask you this here because as a professor, you could be writing about a lot of things at the business school, but you recently felt inspired to write this new book, Catalyst: How to Change Anyone's Mind. What inspired you to write this book?
So after Contagious came out, my life changed quite a bit. I got an opportunity to work with all sorts of companies and organizations, from big Fortune 500s like the GEs and the Googles and the Apples of the world to small startups and everything in between. And I realized that everyone, regardless of what industry they're in, regardless of what company size, all had the same problem, which is they all had something that they wanted to change.
Yep.
The business owners wanted to change the customers or clients' mind. Leaders wanted to change organizations. And employees wanted to change their bosses' minds. Startups wanted to change their industries. Parents wanted to change their kids' minds. Whatever it might be, we all had something that we wanted to change, but it wasn't working. Often we push, we pressure, we cajole, and no one moves, no one budges. That customer doesn't change their mind. The client doesn't come around. The employees don't change. And so the question I wondered is could there be a better way? And so I spent the last number of years doing a lot of research, talking to some of the best salespeople, great leaders, people from a variety of industries to understand, could there be a better way to change minds? And if so, what is it? And that's what the Catalyst is all about.
Paul Hood, you are a CPA.
I am.
And you went to school for a long time to become a CPA. How long did you go to school to become a CPA?
Well, I'm pretty sharp. I only went 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. That's in college. That's post-high school.
Now,
actually learn something.
Jonah, just to give you a little background here, Dr. Zellner, to my right in the studio here, Dr. Z started an optometry clinic, which is the state's largest optometry clinic, the state's largest auto auction. He has a part owner of a bank. He doesn't own a bank. He's part owner of a bank. He wants to declare he's
show off.
Owner of a bank. He has all these successful companies. And you, Z, how long did you have to go to school to become an optometrist?
8 years total after high school.
And I've met a lot of broke CPAs, Jonah.
I've
met a lot of broke CPAs and a lot of broke optometrists. And Paul is in the process of building a 25,000 square foot house. So it turns out you need to have money to do that.
Starter home.
So I want to ask this question, Jonah. How is it that a CPA like Paul could be so successful? How could a guy like Paul be so successful and other CPAs are not? Because I feel like it comes down to, Paul, you have the ability to change anyone's mind.
Sure.
So what questions would you have for Jonah about this? Let's say you're talking to all the CPAs out there, Paul, and because you've learned how to change people's minds. What question would you have for Jonah about, how to change people's minds? Because you've learned how to do that, and I've seen Z do that. Right. Most CPAs can't do it.
So, Jonah, the question I have is you have a marketing degree, and, I think all businesses, successful business owners are salesmen, they're marketing people. Did you find that a lot of your research actually kind of went over into the psychology side of things? If a guy was wanting to study and kind of figure the things out that you did, is it more connection, or is it actually a sign of the times? That kind of dictates what's successful and what's not successful.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's all about that behavioral science. Right? Usually when we try to change someone's mind, whether it's a client, whether it's an employee, whether it's a spouse, we think if we just push a little harder, it'll work. If we provide more facts, more reasons, more information, if we just call that client one more time, they'll come around. And it's clear why we have that intuition, right? If there's a chair in front of us and we want it to move, pushing is a good way to get it to move. If you want to move that chair in a particular direction, pushing works. But for people, pushing often fails for one very simple reason, which is when you push people, they don't just move like chairs move, they often push back. Right? They often don't go in the direction you want them to. They often go in the exact opposite direction of what you want it to. And so what this book is all about is, hey, how can we change minds not by pushing, but by actually saying, well, hold on, what are the barriers preventing change? Why hasn't that person changed already? And how can I mitigate those barriers? How can I get rid of the things that are in the way of them doing what I want them to do and get them to go along? I think a great analogy, think about getting in a car. Right? You get in a car, it's on a hill, you get in your car, you want it to go, you stick your key in the ignition, you turn your key, you put your foot on the gas pedal and you just push it and you hope the car goes. If the car doesn't go, we think we need more gas. Right? If that client doesn't change, that employee doesn't change, we just think we need to push a little harder. We rarely say, well, hold on, what about the parking brake? Right? Because that parking brake is depressed, that car, as much gas as we put in, is not going to go. And so that's what the Catalyst is all about. What are those 5 key common parking brakes that come up again and again that stymie change across a range of situations? And how can we remove those brakes and get people to move?
Jonah, when you're preparing to write your book, how much, let the audience know, how many hours or months or even maybe years did you put into preparing for it? And then second part of that question is, as you were gathering and preparing and writing it, were there any big surprises to you?
Yeah, I mean, so I've spent over a decade in some way, shape, or form writing pieces of this book. So, I've interviewed everything from top salespeople and top leaders to, hostage negotiators who got people to come out with their hands up, to substance abuse counselors who got people to quit.
Wow.
Even a cantor who is a religious person was able to get a Klansman to renounce the KKK. So looking at all sorts of change from a variety of different angles. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is this approach, this way of thinking about change. I think, we tend to think that pushing works. And I've done study after study of this where I ask people in a variety of industries, what's something you want someone to change and how can you get them to change? And over 98% of the time, it's some version of pushing. We just tend to default to that approach.
Right.
We rarely think about the barriers, rarely recognize what those barriers are. We're so focused on ourselves and what we want. We don't think a lot about that person who we're trying to change, what's stopping them, and how we can help.
Jonah, I'm a big fan of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which Warren Buffett said that single book changed his life. And I'd kind of liken your book to, it's almost like How to Win Friends and Influence People Part 2, and you go deeper. You know what I mean? It's like you're really getting into the psychology of it. You really do get into the research of it. How much money do you think it costs a CPA or an optometrist per year to not know how to change anyone's mind? I mean, for the entrepreneurs out there that own a company that just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, have you ever thought about that, Jonah? I mean, how much money could it be costing somebody if they have the branding right, the marketing right, the website right, they got all that, they have the degree right, they have all the education, but they just can't change someone's mind? How much money is it costing people?
Oh, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars easily, if not more. I mean,
I agree.
I think the thing is, we often think about that one client that we can't get to come around.
Oh, yeah.
But if we're really good at this stuff, we're not just convincing that one client. We're convincing dozens of clients.
Truth.
We're convincing other people to want to join us and become employees. We're growing that business from that, one-person CPA firm we might be to dozens of people. We're not doing the work anymore. We're managing teams. We got to learn how to manage those teams, right? And so this is a skill, whether you're, getting a client to come around or whether you're trying to manage more people and get them to come around. I love the link to Dale Carnegie, and that book is a fantastic one, but we've learned a lot since that book was written, right?
That's true.
That book is decades old.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot about behavioral science since then, and it's really exciting to be able to share some of that science with people through this book.
Yeah, Jonah, I got one more question for you. So this is very interesting. I just ordered your book on my phone. I can't wait to read it because, I deal with business owners. We teach them success principles. And a lot of our business owners are really aggressive, type A personalities. And I've said for years, okay, if you step towards somebody, if you step towards that somebody, they have a natural tendency to step back. And so trying to teach a person that is a type A personality to just stand still. So do you see that too? I mean, have you thought about that or addressed that to where people have a tendency, like you say, is to push your chair? I guess that's what you're trying to say is when somebody pushes a chair, they can either push back or the chair can just take off running when it's a person, correct?
Yeah, someone said it so nicely. They said, you need to stop selling and figure out how to get people to buy in. And I think that's exactly right. I talk about 5 key barriers in the book. The first one's reactance. And the basic idea of reactance is, people like to feel like they're in control. And when you tell them to do something, when you pressure them, they don't feel like they're in control. They feel like you're in control. And what do we do when we feel like other people control? We push back. And essentially, people have an ingrained anti-persuasion radar, almost like an anti-missile defense system or like a spidey sense of sorts, where their defenses go up when someone's trying to change their mind. They know it's happening, and so they push back. They push back against it. They say, I don't want to change my mind. They either avoid the persuasion attempt, they ignore it. Think about when that salesman calls, for example. You get that email that you don't want. We ignore, we avoid it, or even worse, right? We counter-argue. That person's sitting there, it seems like they're listening, but they think about all the reasons why what you're suggesting is wrong. And so one tip I talk about in the book to reduce reactance is essentially to provide some sense of choice, right? So imagine you're pitching someone, for example, right? You're sitting there, you're saying, this is the right course of action. Often that person's sitting there thinking, oh, this is going to be too expensive, or it's not going to work, or sure, it worked for that type of client, but it's not going to work for me. They're thinking about all the reasons why what you're suggesting is wrong. But if you provide them with multiple options, two rather than one, or maybe two, even three,
True.
suddenly it shifts their role very importantly. Rather than sitting there thinking about all the reasons why what you suggested is wrong, they're thinking about which of those options you suggested they like best, which means they're much more likely to pick one of them at the end of the conversation, right? Because now, rather than being lectured to or being told what to do, they're participating. You've guided that choice. You've guided their journey. They're much more bought in and much more likely to go along.
Jonah, do you like the Tiny Desk show on YouTube?
I have seen a little bit of it, yes.
You gotta really be watching some Tiny Desk in your life. I'm telling you, it's gonna change your life. But you'll get like, a hip hop artist performing in a stripped down version on, it's like a PBS, but it's performing. Tiny Desk is a great show for everybody out there who hasn't seen it. But imagine you had a Tiny Desk, okay? So you're doing a Tiny Desk show, and in the room it's you, President Trump, and Bernie. And you are sitting down with these, but and then there's no crowd though. We're not playing to the crowd now.
No,
we're playing to Jonah.
Yeah.
Just Jonah.
And you're sitting down and you're going, guys. And we eventually get them to stop doing what they're doing. And you say, now, what I want you guys to do is I'm going to teach you, Mr. Trump, or you, Mr. Bernie, how to change the other guy's mind. So you're going to pull Bernie aside and you're going to tell him. Now, you're not going to tell Trump that you're doing this. So you're going to pull Bernie aside and say, Bernie, here's the deal. I'm going to teach you the secrets. This is how you're going to change his mind, or vice versa. What could political candidates like a Trump or a Bernie Sanders, what could they do better in your mind when doing these debates to not make them so divisive? Even if they have different worldviews, what could the other party do to potentially change the other party's mind? Now, again, I realize in modern politics, you're playing to a crowd and you're trying to get people to cheer and you attack each other and make crazy statements. So I'm just saying, if you were actually sitting down, you were coaching Mr. Sanders or Mr. Trump on how to influence the other person, what kind of advice would you give to politicians?
Yeah, I've worked with a number of politicians, and I share a few political examples in the book. And I think part of the problem is, as you outlined, it's almost like a football field, right, where the Democrats are on one end and the Republicans are on the other.
Yes.
And there's some moderates in between. But, when Democrats say, hey, you should believe this, Republicans say, well, that's really far away from where I am at the moment. No thanks. And vice versa. When Republicans say, oh, you should do X, Y, Z, Democrats say, well, that's pretty far from where I am.
Yep.
Sometimes when we ask for too much, it almost gets disregarded, right? It's almost outside our zone of acceptance. It gets in that region of rejection where it's so far away we don't even want to think about it. And so one thing I talk a lot about in the book is how can we ask for less? We want big change to happen right away. I get it. We all want big change to happen right away. But sometimes we got to be a little patient. I was talking to this doctor who's a great example of this, right? So doctor was talking to a trucker who's morbidly obese, way overweight, drinking like 3 liters of Mountain Dew a day. And what does that doctor want to tell the trucker to do? Stop drinking soda, right? Of course, cut out the soda,
right?
Which is exactly what the Democrats and Republicans want to do. They say, switch to my side right away. All your ideas are wrong.
Cold turkey,
all my
baby.
ideas are right. Yeah, which is not going to happen. Right? That trucker's not going to quit drinking Mountain Dew.
Those truckers love Mountain Dew. They love it. They love it.
So instead, she says, hey, instead of 3 liters a day, just drink 2 and fill up that third bottle with some water. Have it in the cab of your truck. You can drink the water and refill it in the truck stop. He complains about it, grumbles, but is able to do it, right? Next time he comes back, he's down to 2. Then he says, okay, go from 2, now go to 1. He grumbles, goes away, goes down to 1. Next time he says, okay, now go down from 1 to 0. He does it and eventually loses over 35 pounds because what she did is she didn't just ask for less. She asked for less and then asked for more. Essentially what she did is she took big change and broke it down into smaller chunks. I think that's the same thing we've got to think about in politics, right? Stop asking people to completely change in a moment. Just find a piece of common ground, switch that field a little bit, break down a big ask into smaller, more manageable chunks. It's like stepping stones as you jump across a river, making people much more likely to come for the ride.
I want to talk about these 5 key parking breaks. And I also want people to actually buy the book. I mean, Paul, you know how it works. You're a CPA. It turns out you have to sell a book, right, to make money. Is that how that works?
Yeah, isn't that weird? Yeah.
Weird. Okay. So we want people to buy the book. We don't want to give away all the moves, Jonah, but we want to give away enough of the moves. We're shameless entrepreneurs that we want everyone to want the book. You've already bought the book there, Paul. Yep. I bought the book. Jonah, can we go through a few more of these parking breaks?
Sure, yeah, happy to. So I talk about 5 in the book,
yep.
And they're actually part of an acronym. So the first is reactance. We talked a little about that. The second is endowment. That's the E. The third is distance. That's D. U is uncertainty, and CE is corroborating evidence. Put those 5 together, they spell reduce, which is exactly what good catalysts do. We talked a little about reactance already. We talked a little about distance. If you're too far away, it gets disregarded. But one I think your listeners might find useful is this idea of uncertainty. And one thing we often forget is that any time we're asking someone to change, there's some fear, some anxiety there.
Truth.
Right? New things are always riskier than old things. Even if old things are bad, we know how that old thing works.
Right.
Sure, it might not be perfect, right? But we know that old thing. People often talk about their spouses this way. It's like, yeah, my spouse isn't perfect, right? But I know what the challenges are. Whereas new things are really risky. And so anytime you're asking someone to change, you're asking them to go from a sure thing to a risky new thing. You're asking them to take a switch from what they know to something they often don't know. And there's a lot of cost to doing that. Not only is there time or energy or effort, it's often expensive to change. And so one thing I talk a lot about is how can we reduce that uncertainty? How can we, in a sense, lower the barrier to trial, make it easier for people to try what we're offering? So think about Dropbox, for example. If any of you guys have used Dropbox,
every day,
online storage, a wonderful system, right? So they come out. Originally, they say, hey, we're going to store your stuff in the cloud. People go, where's the cloud? Right? What if the cloud goes down? They don't want to try this new technology because they don't know how it works. And so rather than saying, okay, we'll make it cheap, or rather than saying, hey, we'll buy a lot of ads, what they say is, look, we'll give you some for free. We'll give you 2 gigabytes of storage for free. It's not an infinite amount of storage for free, but it's just enough so you get a sense of what it's like. So if you like it, you're willing to upgrade. Why? Because rather than them trying to convince you, you've convinced yourself. And so what lowering the barrier to trial is how can we give people a taste and experience, almost like a test drive of what we're offering? Going back to CPA, if I'm a CPA, of course I say I'm great. Right? Of course I say you should switch your business to me from someone else. No CPA is going to say, no, stay with your old CPA. So we have to think about, well, how can I show you that I'm great? How can I give you an experience that allows you to realize how great I am so you convince yourself rather than me convincing you?
Jonah, I want the listeners out there to get a chance to know you, know you as a person here. Did you remember, picture in your mind, can you think back to like your 8th grade school dance, 8th grade?
I can actually. Scarily enough, I can. Yeah.
What was your jam? Like, what was the song?
By the way, to Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Well done. Well
nice.
done.
That's the jam. Okay.
Give him a mega point. He gets a mega point for that.
You get 1 mega point for that.
He gets a mega point. I think that's fair.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, who are your favorite music artists right now, or a couple of them where you go, man, I really like this group? Just give us. We need to know the personal life, the deep dark secrets.
We won't share it with anybody. No. Just between us.
Just us and a half million people. Just let us.
Just let us know.
You know what's scary, by the way, is I thought you were going to ask me who I was dancing with at that 8th grade dance. I thought it was going to be even worse than who I was listening to music-wise. In terms of music, I like all sorts of stuff. I like everything from country to hip-hop to rock and everything in between. I find at the moment I like a lot of indie rock, mellow stuff. I have a new baby in the house, so anything that sort of keeps it mellow and light is good for me at the moment.
That's not from the same girl you danced with in 8th grade, is it? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, just curious.
Unfortunately, it's not.
Okay, well,
okay, that's good.
That's good.
That's good. I'm never making a point there. Okay, so now your book is obviously the book's called Catalyst. This is an awesome book for people to read. But I want to ask you, because to write a book, it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of focus, a lot of energy. How do you organize the first 4 hours of your day? Because you are a professor, you're a speaker, you're a writer. How do you organize the first 4 hours of your day? And what time do you typically, get started?
Yeah, people talk a lot about big rocks and little rocks, and I think it's such a good analogy, right? There's a tendency to want to start with the little stuff, right? Just to do all the little stuff, and eventually once we get the little stuff done, we'll go to the big stuff. But sometimes if you don't make time for the big stuff, it never happens, right? If you pour all the little rocks in, there's not enough room for the big rocks.
Yeah.
Or if you pull the big rocks in first, the little rocks sit around them. And so I think you really got to be protective of your time, right? You got to say, what is that big thing I want to accomplish today or this week? Writing a book, not fun, let me tell you, right? And so it's me locking myself in that room and saying, what's the chapter I've got to get through today? What's the idea I want to focus on today? Let me do that, and then I'll do some of the small stuff. What
time do you start the day typically?
Well, I'd probably start around 7 a.m., something like that.
7 a.m. Okay, and then where are you starting today? Do you work out of your house? Do you go up to Wharton to work from the campus?
Or maybe a Starbucks to get a latte.
Where do you
I walk to work with my cane every day. I swing my cane around in my top hat, and I wear that to work.
That's
skipping? I bet I can see him skipping. He's skipping down the sidewalk.
I start from home. I find it's good to greet the day from home. Sometimes in those sweatpants and that T-shirt. Don't start too heavy. Ease yourself into it often.
For the listeners out there that are thinking about it, and we have time for 2 more questions. We're going to go lightning round here. So, Paul, be ready, and Z, be ready. But here we go.
I'm ready.
For listeners out there who are thinking about buying the book, but it's a tight budget situation. See, we might go to Chipotle
Come on now.
twice this week. Each time we go, it's $8 for a burrito.
Give up a burrito or 2.
And we're going, it's a tight time for me. I might go on iTunes and buy 19 songs in the next 60 days that I'll listen to one time. I might do this, or I might buy a book that could change my life. Why should everybody pick up a copy of your book? Because I am sold out to the idea that emotional intelligence is super important, and I have never met a super successful person who does well in the game of life who cannot change people's minds. That's my reason, but why should everybody pick up this book?
So I'll actually say 2 things. Don't believe me. Go to my website. There's some free resources there. Check them out. If you find them useful, get the book. And by the way, if you get the book and you hate the book, email me and I will send you your money back.
Wow.
I am that sure that people will find this book valuable that I'm happy to send them their money back. I think there's tips and tricks and useful stuff in there for everyone, whether you're a small business owner, a big business owner. And there's a bunch of free stuff on my website, resources, whether you're trying to change a boss's mind, change a client's mind. There's a bunch of free stuff people can dig into there. If you're not sure yet about the book, it'll give you some sense of what the ideas are. I think it's really useful stuff, and I want to make sure people can get access to it.
Paul Hood, rapid fire question before Z one-ups all of us with the ultimate
Z
question.
He always one-up just when he walks in the room. So the question I have is again, we deal with businesses, startup businesses to businesses that have 50, 60 employees already. Would you say that this book has a benefit to really anybody that wants to grow their business, that wants to truly market? Because we have a tendency to people think marketing is just going out and buying ads and all of that, but the reality is that connection, that people that spread tell your story. So my question is there a target for a specific size of business that you would be after this book?
No, it's really all about the goal that you have in mind, right? That thing that you want to change. I've worked with small businesses. It's tough being a small business owner. You don't have a big budget. I've worked with a lot of medium-sized or sort of high-growth businesses that are trying to take it to the next level. But the challenges, while they're somewhat different, are also often very much the same. You've got limited resources, and you got to make a lot of those resources. And so it's really about thinking about, what is that behavioral science that gets people to change, and how can we harness them to move them in the right direction?
Jonah, now Z's going to one-up us all with the ultimate question, but I want to ask you, sir, will you ban the selling of your books to communist dictators? Will you do that for me?
I think they need it more than anybody. Wait, no, we don't want them to change people's minds.
I don't want the communist leaders changing people's minds.
I mean, my goodness,
Jonah,
a book like this in Kim Jong-sung's hand, what could happen?
Could you commit to not selling this to communist dictators? Is that a pledge you would take for us?
Please.
I'm happy to make that pledge.
Okay, he lost like 6 or 7 book sales right there, just alone.
Okay.
Just right there at the top.
All right, Z, back to you.
Okay.
Back to you.
This is an interesting concept, and I love the premise of the book, how to change anyone's mind. And I know this isn't our listening audience because we're all entrepreneurs and capitalists, and we're people out there trying to sell goods or service.
Shameless.
But occasionally somebody may click on this podcast, listen to the radio show, and go, "What are they talking about? What's going on?
Talking about on that show?
What's happening?" Isn't that? I mean, you're manipulating someone's mind. Are you? Is this ethical? What, changing someone's mind?
Are you a dark lord?
I mean, are you like? Is this
a dark?
Are you controlling? Is this like you're taking over the world? Is this the Illuminati?
Is this part of the Matrix?
Am I plugged in or plugged out?
Part of the Federal Reserve?
I mean, is this manipulation at the highest level?
It's like a chiropractor of the mind.
I mean, is this? Are you putting things in my brain that don't belong there?
This is artificial intelligence.
What is going on? I don't control myself anymore. No, I mean, how do you answer that for the average Joe out there that may be listening and goes, you know what, that doesn't sound like, I mean, I don't want someone changing my mind. I mean, that just sounds like something wrong or something dirty.
Jonah's written a demon book.
He's inside my brain or something.
So I'll say 2 things.
Okay.
First, there were some early reviews on Amazon. And one of the early reviews basically said, this book is too useful because it will change people's minds, and salesmen and manipulators will use it. And so don't read this book because it's bad because the tools are useful. And they gave it a low review as a result. And I was actually like, you know what? I'm pretty happy.
That's actually a good review. I think, Yeah.
If you're worried about this book because it's too effective and you're worried about the wrong people using it, I'm pretty happy about that.
Pretty happy.
You know, and what I would say is, again, tools are tools. Right? You know, you can do good things with a hammer and you can do bad things with a hammer.
Right.
So just the fact that they're tools doesn't mean they're good or bad. It's how we use them. And I think what's great about something even like uncertainty, right? Take Dropbox, what they did with giving away a free trial.
Right.
If the product's not good, it's not going to work.
Right.
Giving away something for free, lowering the barrier to trial, giving people experience. If your thing's terrible, you don't have a word-of-mouth problem or a marketing problem. You got a product or a service problem.
Right.
Right? And so these tools are useful, but they're going to be more useful the better your thing is. And so if you don't have a big budget, you don't have a lot of resources, these tools are going to be great. If you got a product or service that isn't quite great, well, then you got to work on that product or service.
Joan, I want to complain here before we wrap up. I have a complaint I want to share with you.
Is this a certified complaint?
This is a certified official complaint. Jonah, I want to complain for a second here. Your book is endorsed by a Daniel Pink.
Okay.
Okay, that's a mega point. Okay, Daniel Pink, he's been on the show. It's endorsed by Jim Collins. That's also a mega point. Now, see, we've had the founder of Netflix reach out to us this week to be on the show.
Oh, cool.
We've had the founder of Square reach out to us to be on the show. We have Wolfgang Puck has been on the show.
He's been on the show.
Guy Kawasaki has been on the show.
On the show.
But you know who has rejected me more than almost anybody?
Who?
Jimmy C. Jimmy Collins.
No way.
So Wharton, Mr. Wharton here, Mr. Jonah, if at any point you could give him a copy of your book and inside it, you know, when you sign the book, if that he's endorsed, just say
a personalized book. That's always a good
please
move.
Book my good friend Clay and use your Jedi mind tricks to get him on the show.
Yeah.
Because you need to change
use
his
your tool
mind.
for good, Jonah.
Jonah, use it for good.
Use it for good.
And he only rejects me because he has class and style and standards and all the things. Apparently, we tricked you into being on our show. But could you maybe work on him on the side?
I will work on that. I'll put that on my to-do list today.
Oh, Jimmy C. Jimmy
my
C.
gosh.
Oh, folks, buy Jonah's book, and he
buy
will
a
give
lot
us
of 'em.
Jimmy C. There's 500,000 of you that are begging for Jimmy C. Email me all the time, said, I want Jimmy C. I want Jimmy C. And we want to say yes, but Jonah's not going to do it unless he sees some immediate sales. Buy the book right now.
Do it.
The Catalyst,
Click.
How to Change Anyone's Mind. The Catalyst, How to Change Anyone's Mind. Jonah, I appreciate you, my friend. You offer an unbelievable value. You are the man.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was awesome to be here.
This was a whale of a show.
He's a stud. I we get him twice. First time I understand you trick people. The second time
he thought this was the Jim Collins podcast. All right, Jonah. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Later, guys.
Hey,
take care, Jonah.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
If you don't understand you're the one, you won't understand why you're being attacked like you're being attacked. Whenever the enemy knows that the one is coming, he always sets traps to stop them from succeeding because they're the one. And to him whom much is given, much is required. And so the text starts out talking about Abraham because Abraham is the one. And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he was a misfit because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay because he was the one. So he had to live in isolation because he was the one. So he probably was lonely because he was the one. Because he was the one. Because he was the one.
New city, new state, it's gonna be a mean race. All the sins that I have done, I'm grateful for a clean slate. Felt like I was different, I ain't never tried to prove it though. Stack your chips, get on your grind, don't never make excuses, bro. Solid as a rock, loyalty is all I ever know. Doing what you've always done, then homie, you can never grow. Conversations with the Lord, I ask him would I ever blow. Told me I got dead weight, so friends, I gotta let them go. We don't make it. I know that they hating, it's all on their faces. We destined for greatness. I said, I've been patient. I know it's my moment, no stopping, we going, this thing is in motion. What you gonna do when your back's against the wall? You gonna stand up like a champ or you gonna curl up in the ball? I'm the one, I've been chosen, so I'm riding through it all. Gotta keep your faith up so you can rise and never fall. Let's go.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
The devil's been attacking, I ain't stressing from it. Cause every time that happens, there's a blessing coming. Obsessing over problems that you can't change. I have you going crazy, learn your lesson from it. Remember when they cut my water off, homie? Man, reflecting how they cut my lights off too. Dog, I had to move back in with my mama. Had me feel feeling like a failure, that's what life would do. Gotta get up on your grind, I had to make the right move. Ramen noodles every night, I had some beans and rice too. Execution is the key, don't tell me what you might do. Favor from the man above, no other God is like you. You can knock me down, but I promise I ain't staying there. Feeling like I am the one, we just begun, let's make it clear. Me and Clay clicking up, y'all don't even get it, bruh. About to be colossal, taking over when we rip it up, hey.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Overnight success after 23 years. Got the dragon energy, got another gear. Got a superpower, man, I call persevere. Cause I never have it thought people call fear. I never stopped writing when the future's not clear. We're gonna be dead soon and I'm just being real. So I'll be paralyzed by the thoughts that we feel.
So you'll stop begging for people to come into agreement with you. So you'll stop doing polls and census and trying to get everybody to come into consensus with your vision so that you won't need nobody to say amen when you preach, because you already know that you got heaven saying amen. The power of one.
Listen to the entire T.D. Jakes sermon, Grasping the Moment, by visiting T.D. Jakes' YouTube channel, simply named T.D. Jakes.
Shout